All right, everybody. Welcome to the Pro Dev Academy. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and let's get started. Appreciate you here today for the second Pro Dev Academy. And so today we are going to focus on Build Agent. There's been a lot of content around Build Agent lately, but we are going to focus on how we can use it in standard development work streams. So let's get started. All right, as always, we start with safe harbor notice. I am not expecting to cover anything that isn't currently in GA, but if you have maybe something pops up in Q&A that is forward-looking, but we'll be very clear about that. And please post your questions to Q&A. We have my buddy and teammate Rob Perenboom on the call, and I think we're going to have some other people, and I'll try and keep an eye on that as well. So please use Q&A, and if it makes sense, and you are able to do audio, we'd love to talk to you. ProDev Academy is part of the Live on ServiceNow series, and there's lots of good stuff on Live at ServiceNow, so we'd love to have you check out what is available. This is one of two app engine sessions that we'll run in AMS, and we'll talk about the other one just very briefly in a second. But please feel free to check out Live on ServiceNow. There's lots of awesome content available, both live like this and recorded as well. A little bit of housekeeping. We'll have time for Q&A, but like I said, please use Q&A as we go. This will be available. This will be recorded and available both on the community and on YouTube. And please, we'd love for you to fill out a short survey. Build Agent is new. Everyone's, really trying to understand where it fits into the ecosystem. So we would love feedback on topics and content that would be useful to you. So please take a few minutes to fill out a survey at the end. That we'd really appreciate it. Today we are going to talk about multi-persona app development. We've talked about it in a number of ways throughout the our other academy, App Engine Academy, and we're just going to talk about it here a little bit because really what we want from IDE and Build Agent is to see where that fits into how we build applications on the platform using our current skills. Now, it's very exciting what it can do, where we can prompt it very succinctly, and it can create these really amazing custom applications using React and ServiceNow on the back end. We'll talk about that briefly, and we'll also talk about our future plans for covering that specific content and when we're going to do that. But in this case, what we're going to just think about is a practical use for Build Agent and how it can dovetail into how you think about building applications currently, but also where we can utilize it to do some of the more complicated aspects of an application, but then use it across different personas and in different tools. So and then we'll just stand up the use case, talk about what we're going to build, and then hop into the platform and build it. And so hopefully this will be interesting to you today. It incorporates IDE and Build Agent, but it also crosses into Workspace Builder, and we're going to create a custom scope and a custom spoke. So hopefully this will be an interesting use of not only Build Agent, but also a way that you can think about creating levers for your most sophisticated developers, and how they can sort of amplify their value and provide building blocks for the more kind of business or no code oriented developers. So lots of interesting topics. And like I mentioned, this is one of two academies that we run. This one is going to be focused on mostly on IDE, but then also on engineering concepts on the platform. So this is more from advanced developer topics. At App Engine Academy, that we're going to discuss more traditional ways of building and thinking about how to sequence and assemble workflows on the platform. Just as a teaser, we are going to talk about citizen development next at the next App Engine Academy. And we're going to utilize a lot of the concepts that we're talking about here, as far as how can we use the the skill sets and sort of the outcomes that different types of builders can achieve with different tools and how all of that will fit together. So we will talk about some concepts on this call. Like I said, it's mostly going to be around using Build Agent to achieve that. But at the next App Engine Academy, we'll talk more from a citizen developer or line of business developer perspective. So we'd love to see you there too. All right. And so, let's just look at sort of these relationships. And if you've attended the previous App Engine Academies, you've seen this before. We're just going to talk about this very briefly to set the stage and the context about, what we're going to build and how we can think about, making these different capabilities available to our different users. Because we're going to use Build Agent to generate a table populated with data, generate some client scripts, or I'm sorry, some script includes. But that isn't really accessible to a lot of the people that might build on the platform. So we're going to take the output from Build Agent and then look at how we can wrap it in a spoke and make it available no code to our low code or no code developers. So it'll be a good demonstration about how to think about Build Agent to help you do the things that you're already doing on the platform, but then also how you can think about the relationship between code and making it accessible to more builders on the platform. So we have to start with, we have our business user, they are going to be more aligned with the outcome of the product. And so a lot of times they are end users, they're power users on the platform. They understand specifically the business demand and the workflow related to, their department or their group and what they're looking to accomplish. And so, those are great individuals in if we think about putting them in the right tool in the right place as far as where they might fit into the development process. And so this is really the group of users that we're going to be targeting with the outcome of what we're going to use with Build Agent today. And like I said, we'll cover this in greater detail at the App Engine Academy about how we can look at patterns of what we're building on the platform and similar workflows and business processes that are at your enterprise or at your customers and how that can relate to these no-code builders. Like I said, we're just going through this very quickly to set the stage for the different personas. Obviously we have our traditional platform developers. We call it kind of put these developers in a bucket as low code, but certainly many of these developers use are well-versed in JavaScript and implement a lot of functionality with code. But the concept here is that they're performing the traditional development tasks on the platform and primarily configuring their changes using tools that emit XML metadata. And so whether that's in the platform or with App Engine Studio or the new ServiceNow Studio, this is where this developer is going to primarily sit. And then, what we're going to use today when we build out the bulk of this use case is, IDE and Build Agent. And so, we don't want what we're not trying to do today is really talk about the specific features and why they're different. But just the idea is that this is someone who's going to think about things maybe more in terms of code and integration, and we want to make that capability available in other tools to the other personas. And the way to think about this is, there's really a relationship between these different users, and this is one of the primary things that we're trying to kind of hit home in the ProDev Academy that's different than the App Engine Academy because we want to apply these concepts of reuse and how we can best utilize the technology to get more done on the platform. And so, a lot of this is where we can take advantage and exploit the relationships between the different personas and tools. And so you can see, maybe a traditional low-code developer might identify patterns that are very common across the enterprise related to standard fields in record producers. This is a simple example, but they could build out variable sets and provide those to the business users. But what we're going to be doing today is looking at, how can we use Build Agent to generate code very quickly that we understand how to build, but then how can we make it available to both the low-code developers and our line of business or citizen developers. And so that's a relationship between the output of Build Agent, right? And then what we're going to, then we'll hop into Studio and actually create a spoke and a custom action and wrap all the JavaScript and make it available um, and basically marshal the data pills and the configuration that one of the other developers might use in Flow Designer, and then call into our script include that we've generated from Build Agent. So a number of different topics that we're trying to demonstrate here. But also, we just want to experiment more with Build Agent and really get everyone thinking about like I said, not kind of these magical apps where we can create um, a couple value statements, like what we're looking to accomplish, and then create a full application that maybe we don't understand, but how we can incorporate Build Agent into the existing ecosystem, the existing ways we're building things, and how we're currently thinking about structuring all of the functionality, but do it a lot faster. So hopefully you'll see that a lot of the things that we're going to use Build Agent for, it's not magic. It's not things that we don't understand on this call, but what we can do is greatly accelerate the value of or the delivery of the technical perspective. But one of the things that we really want you to think about from a Build Agent perspective is that it's a foundational model. So in addition to understanding how to react with Fluent and IDE and generate capabilities on the platform, it has this vast amount of knowledge that is available to it from an industry perspective, a general knowledge perspective, and you'll see here what the Excel file that we're going to use to load some of the data is incomplete. And so not only can we leverage Build Agent to generate a lot of the platform configuration for us, but what we can also do is utilize Build Agent to use that general knowledge that is available to us and fill in some of the missing data. And so that's one of the really powerful ways to think about Build Agent is not just, we can use it to create this incredible React front end and do these things that we would normally do on the platform, but how can we utilize the general knowledge that it has as well to introduce, more tailored workflows, or in this case, specific data that we know our end users are going to want to be able to access. All right, so let's talk about the demo use case. And so in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to use Build Agent to import some publicly available data related to taxes for different states from Excel. Once we have it build and populate that table, we're going to use it to build a script include to handle all of the different calculations, and then also a background script for the example code. And so, that's all in IDE and Build Agent. But, what we're trying to also just get everyone thinking about is, that's a work increment, right? And so how can we utilize that in ways that we would traditionally assemble different applications? And so that's where we're going to wrap the script in a custom spoke. And so what that will allow us to do with, embedding the script include capabilities into an action now, it will allow other users to interact with the script include using no code. So they'll be able to, drag and drop the action in Flow Designer, use data pills to configure it. And so, this concept of, taking sort of the most technical aspects of an implementation and packaging it is really powerful, right? Because one way that we can leverage it is now this is accessible to a larger spectrum of our possible builders on the platform, right? Because it's no code. But even people that understand script includes and can easily include this, What they can do now is utilize this as a component, right? So that we are clear on what the quality of it is. If it's being utilized in other places, then it just gives us an opportunity to encapsulate the functionality and change it if we need be, right? So one of the really powerful relationships here is the marshaling between the configuration and flow designer into the script include is transparent to our end users, right? Of this, so the other developers. And so this gives us an opportunity to change the spoke or to change the script include, and all of those modifications now would proliferate to the other applications that are using the spoke. And so a good example of that is, let's say that there was a bug in the calculation. And so if we were to fix that bug in the script include, all of the different applications that had sequenced the business process and were using this spoke, the bug would be fixed there too. And so this is just a good concept of, um, you know, using the breadth of the tools, as levers for reuse and to, better be able to support changes and issues at scale. And so, we did want to talk about just very briefly, what are we getting, when we are building a full custom application using Build Agent. And so, there's been a lot of content around, novel applications that are getting generated with a brand new UI. And so you see here, this is essentially how this application is structured, right? We have a UI page, and then we have, in this case, a React single page application that is embedded in the UI page, and then that calls into the table API. And so we are going to cover this. We do, I mean, we don't want to do a full React content, but what we do want is to cover this to the extent where everyone understands what Build Agent is emitting when we're building full custom UIs. Because what we don't want is everyone to think, well, we can create these really beautiful UIs, and they're super modern, and so we're not going to use any of the platform capabilities as far as like UI Builder and Service Portal and the traditional platform view. That isn't what we really want, but this is just another tool to engage our end users, to meet them where they're at, and to create functionality that might be specific to their needs. And so, we're going to have some breaks over the holidays, and so this will span a couple of different sessions. So I think we won't be meeting in January because it's so close to New Year's Eve. But starting in February, we're going to start covering this architecture. And so in the meantime, though, we do want to talk about practical uses and how you can use Build Agent to accelerate how you're building applications writing. Okay, so here we are with IDE. And so what I'm going to do is quickly create an empty workspace and app. But conceptually, what we're going to do is utilize this data from this tax foundation to guide Build Agent to create a new table and populate this. And unfortunately, I'm just sharing Chrome, so you can't see the spreadsheet, but you'll see when I paste it in there, it doesn't include all of the information we want. And so that's a good opportunity, like I said, to leverage Build Agent and and use the combination of the knowledge it has as a foundational model, as well as the training specific to ServiceNow that it has to build. So the first step here, I'm going to create a new workspace. I'm just going to call this tax utils. Let's just give it a second. And so, we're going to build this incrementally ourselves with our prompts because we want to be very specific and prescriptive with what we get from this, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to prompt this to create a new empty app. So we created a workspace. Then the workspace can have a number of different applications, but we're just going to create one called Tax Utils 2. So let's just give it a second. All right. See here that it's created the application, and you can see it is loading all of the dependencies that it needs. So I'm just sorry, I'm just getting my Zoom console out of the way here. But like what I said, what we really want to do is take all this information and store this in a table because we're going to want to be able to update this. And so, we know how to do this, right? So it's very easy to create a table and import all and find all the information and import it from Excel. But this is a good opportunity, like I said, to utilize Build Agent to do it for us in a much faster way, but then also, when I paste the information here, you'll see that it's not complete. And interestingly enough, it doesn't include the state abbreviations. And so if you think about the locations table and tying the taxes back to those states, then what we really need is the abbreviations. And so this is a good opportunity to use Build Agent not only to create the table and populate it, but then do the work for us to find all the different abbreviations for the states and put that in as well. So let's just give this just a second to finish up, and then we'll prompt Build Agent to do just that. All right. So here we have all the dependencies loaded. We have a summary of what has Build Agent has done for us. But what I'm going to do is give it a prompt here. And you can see, oop, I'm just copying and pasting this so you don't have to sit and watch me type everything here. Okay, yeah, so we can see we're going to paste some information from an Excel doc, and we want Build Agent to create a new custom table. And what's missing is the abbreviation, right? So why not have Build Agent do that for us? And you'll see as I paste this information, it's just from Excel. So we don't have to create a CSV. This is loosely structured, but what's great is Build Agent can understand the headings and load all of that for us. And so it's going to do that. And then it's also going to create the state abbreviations for us. So again, this is well within our capability of creating the custom table and then importing it via XML, but or I'm via importing it via Excel, but just a shortcut, right? And we're also utilizing Build Agent to do the abbreviations, and so we can see here that it's creating the table, and you'll also see that it's going to create the record for us in a second as well. So let's give it a second to do that. And one of the things that I forgot to do, and so, obviously Build Agent is great, right? It gives us the ability to, vibe code and use this incremental prompt-based development. But, one of the really great capabilities of IDE and Fluent is, one, we have all the kind of speed hacks and tools available to us in IDE. But we also now have full version control. So I'll just wait for a second here and let's initialize our repository and do our first commit. So we can see now what's happened so far. That it's created the structure of the table, the table definition. And then as far as records goes, it's still creating the records, but that'll just take a second. So while we're waiting, who has experimented with Build Agent so far? Uh, if you've created a custom application, we'd love to see it in chat, kind of the use case that you've been thinking about. All right, but I'll keep an eye on that, but we see now that we have all of the different records defined in Fluent, and the Build Agent has filled in the state abbreviations. So what we can do is let's just initialize a repository, right? And so lots of good built-in Git integration with IDE. So I'm just going to stage all of these and then just put in initial commit. All right, so now we have we're using version control. We have our table, and so the next step, what we want is to create a script include to expose this data. Oh, it's still going here. Oh, yeah. What's very interesting is that District of Columbia, since it's not one of the how we view the traditional 50 states, you can see here that it's intelligently applying additional logic to this. And so very helpful and just another good example of all of the different things that Build Agent can do that we either might not think of or that is just faster to have Build Agent do this on behalf for us. So let's just give it a second to build. That looks like it's good. And once it's built, like I said, what we're going to do now with this data is we are going to wrap it with the script include. We'll prompt the build agent to generate all of the different functionality. And then we'll have it to help us generate a test, a background script so we can see how to use it. And then we'll wire that up to a custom spoke. So let's just give it one more second. All right, great. So it gave us a synopsis of what it did and all of the state abbreviations. So that's exactly what we wanted. And so you'll see here, the prompt that we're giving it is we want to have a little bit of flexibility here. We want the script to include to either accept a state name or abbreviation. And what we also want to get is the price, and we're prompting it to actually return a complex object, right, where we can get the calculated sales tax and the total price. And so again, very helpful as far as being able to describe what we're looking to generate and the outcome that we're going to get. So let's give it a second to generate the script include. And we can see here all of the different files that are changed. I'm just going to go back to the directory view here and just see what we get from a script include standpoint. And the nice thing is what Build Agent is generating is both the Fluent, the way to embed the the representation of the metadata change, and then a separate JavaScript file, right? So let's see what it has here. Oop. All right, let's hide this and see what we got. Okay, so we have, you can see that it is calculating the sales tax and we have the price, and then it's looking for both the state identifier and then the price. And then it's doing a bunch of kind of helpful things, right? It's trimming, it's uppercasing, it's finding if it's a state abbreviation. And so lots of good stuff that it's doing in our behalf just to improve the sort of the overall quality and the resiliency of this function. So that's exactly what we want. And then let's see this script include. Okay, so let's give it a second to deploy. All right, and so that's now available, and you'll see here it gave us some good examples. But what I'm also going to do is you see it's using and then, this is just a good example of where one of the things that we don't really want is to use Build Agent in general to build a lot of things that we don't understand, because it's an accelerator, vibe coding is great. But one of the things here that we, really want to prompt it to do is, and I'm going to paste it, is we want the script include to use require instead of import. That's just a different way of loading the module. And so this is the way that I prefer it. And so this is a good example of, in general, what we're looking to accomplish is having build agent do things on our behalf. But what we can also do is prompt it to do technical things. So, the existing now it's just for creator skills, the extensions to the platform products, those are great. But in general, those are kind of one shot, right? Those are one way where we can generate it, and you can see now it's been modified. But what Build Agent is really good, it is round trip. So it gives us lots of options to just tailor the code exactly how we want, make modifications. So if we had a change in our requirements for this script include, we could also use Build Agent to do that as well. So let's just make it a little easier to see here. And so let's give it a second. And so, this is a bit of a different process, right? So, when we're thinking about our traditional build tools on the platform, it's interesting because we're in the platform that we're making modifications to during the runtime. So it's different than, more traditional development style where the complete definition of the capabilities that we're going to build is, in code. And then we create a build, and then that is the runtime. And so that more closely aligns with something like Java or C or C++, where you have your source code, you build it into an executable, and then you deploy it. And so, part of that, or what that enables now is, the really strong kind of full Git capabilities because, it's separate from the runtime. It's available in Fluent. And so now we can check things in and check them out to Git, but also it allows, more quality checks to be applied, during the build time. So lots of good reasons why we want that. And so, but actually, I see some changes here. And so I'm going to commit these is a good process. We're going to add the new files. And then let's just add uh, let's add these changes and say generated script included. Right. So let's commit these to source control. And the next step that we want to do here is let's just create a background script. And so that's going to provide us a way to test it and to understand exactly what build agent generated. And the nice thing is we'll be able to copy in that code directly to our action, right? When we create a script include. Or I'm sorry, when we create a custom spoke. So let's open up, let's open up a background script here and then see what we get from build agent. So let's open up this file. And I don't think I really want all of this. But what I am going to do is take some of this code here and let's see it run in build agent. All right, let's paste it into build agent. Or I'm sorry, into background script. See what we got. Oop. So let's choose our scope. And what we can do is if we go back to the now config, it's X SNC tax utils 1. So let's wait for this to deploy. We're running a little tight on time, but I think we'll get there. Let's give it a second. And actually, I think, well, let's just wait till it's done just to be sure. What I was going to say is, okay, here we go. Should I run it? And let's get to that scope. It says tax utils 1, I'll run the script. Oop, let's see what we got. I must have had a copy and paste error. Let's do this. Let's remove all of that. Should we get that ran okay? That's good. And so, like I said, I don't really want that whole thing. So Oh, I see what happened actually. So I'm going to paste this whole thing in there. Oop. Then we don't need this. So let's run this now. All right. So this looks pretty good, right? So we ran against the state of California for $100. The tax rate is 8.98%. And so it looks like it's working pretty well. So we have the tax rate for New York. All of that calculations look good. And so the nice thing is we have some good example code. And so this is great. We have a pretty useful script include here. But now let's go into Workflow Studio though and create a spoke and make this available in Flow Designer. So let's just go in here and I'm going to create a new spoke. And once we create a custom action and wrap the script include, then the nice thing is it will be available to in Flow Designer. So anyone can do tax calculations that they want. So let's find, let's go a sec. Oop, it's still spinning. Tax details, that's what we want. And so let's just put in tax details. All right, so continue. All right, so there's lots of options to create spokes. We are just wrapping JavaScript, so let's create this by hand. And so, the spoke is going to be what packages all of these different actions. And so what we want is to create a new action that is going to wrap our script include. So let's create a new action. Say action designer. And so what I'm going to do is calculate taxes. That taxes, right? So let's put this in. Oh, wait. Hold on. So tax utils. All right. It's name calculate action or calculate taxes. You late. So we want to put this in tax utils and additional properties. This all looks good. We want this accessible from all scopes, so we'll just take the defaults there. All right, and so we know we want to make this general purpose. So certainly, if we had a custom table that had these fields, we could accept that record. But what we want to do is make this nice and flexible. So let's create a state input. This is going to be a string. We want this to be mandatory. And then what we also want is the price, right? And the price is going to be a currency. That's going to be mandatory as well. I'm going to save it. I like saving a lot. And so that's what the action is going to receive. What it's going to output, though, is we want to output the total price. And so let's say total price. And so this, again, is going to be currency. And we know that we want to definitely have that output. So we've defined the inputs and outputs. And now we need to wire up the actual functionality of the action. So let's go into here and we're going to add a new step. And so this step is going to be a script step, right? And so this part feels a little repetitive when we just have this one step, but the idea here is that the action has the inputs and outputs, and all of these different steps can have a variety of inputs and outputs. In this case, we just have the one step, so I'm going to say the state, and the value here is going to be from the input, and that's going to be the state. And then we're going to create another variable, and that's going to be price, right? And the value is going to be from the input, and that's going to be the price. And then we need to have an output here. And so this is going to be the total price. Right? That's going to be mandatory, and this is going to be currency. All right, and so let's save this. And so now what we can do is if we go to the output, we can map the output to our script set, right? So the total price. So what's happening, let's recap, is so the action is what's going to be available in Flow Designer. And the inputs and the outputs of the action are going to be, the data pills when we call action, and then the output now will be available in a later step in the flow. And so that's what we needed to set up. But what we need to do now is we need to actually call our script include, right? So I'm just going to copy some code here, and we're going to need to change it a little bit. So we don't need all of this GS info, right? And we need to change this because this isn't what we want. So we can do though, is we can call, this is going to be inputs dot state, right? And so this is going to be the inputs dot price, right? Because those are the arguments that we're going to send to it. And then how do we return it? We can do outputs dot total price, right? So let me just make sure that, yeah, we're not using camel casing. All right, so this looks pretty good. Let's save this. I have a syntax error here, and so we need to assign it. All right, now it looks pretty good. So let's save that. And then let's test it. So let's go California, and let's put in that 100. And see what we get. Prices required must be, okay, so I didn't map something correctly here. So let's go back and check. So we saw an error, and inputs.price. Let's go back to the input. So price, that looks good. What's the price? Calculate sales tax. All right, I'm just going to retype it. Maybe we have something I'm missing here. So inputs.price. Right, and we are definitely mapping this. I'm going to try this again. Price, that looks good. Save this. All right, so this is a little bit fiddly. We got to get everything lined up. So let's test it again. And so let's do CA and then 100. Oh, output data. All right, we have something wrong from an output perspective. All right, so let's just see here. Let's see the script step. It worked. So we're getting total price, air prices, sales tax. Okay, let's try this again. So what I'm going to do, let's troubleshoot this a little bit. Let's put in 100. And then let's put in, yeah. Let's test that. This doesn't really matter, right? Because I have this hard coded for now. 100. All right, so yeah, this looks good, right? So we have some type of mapping here. So this is exactly what we'd expect. And you see the output is a little bit different, right? Because if you remember that we prompted the script include to give us some more information. So we need to do a little bit of work there too. And so what we can do now, if we saw the object literal we got back, we can change this to total price. So let's just double check that. Let's build this incrementally. And so I'm going to test this here. Again, these don't really matter because it's hard coded right now. So 100. And so let's run this. All right, so this is what we get, but it looks like we have a problem here, so let's fix that. So if we had the outputs, we don't want this, right? That zero is still there. And so let's save that and run the test again. I think we're getting a little closer. And 100. All right, so total price, that's what we want, right? $100. It applied that correctly. So that all looks good. And so let's start backing our changes in and make this thing work. And so for the state, let's try inputs dot state. Let's just try that one, right? So like I said, a little fiddly here, but this is really part of the process where we just have to get all of the different plumbing talking correctly. And this looks right. So it looks like that it mapped California. Okay, that's what we wanted. And so now let's see if we can finally get the input stub price. All right. Price, let's see. 100.
Doesn't seem to like the sales tax.
Yeah, let's try this one. All right, let's oh, you know something?
I was gonna
Current.
say who likes sales tax?
All right, let's see. Okay, we're
Got
mapping it
0%
right.
sales tax in California too.
I guess so. Okay, well, here's what we're going to do because rather than just, I don't have one of the inputs aligned, but so let's just put in this is 100 so we can just see how all of this stuff fits together. All right, so what I need to do is publish this. All right, and so what we can do now is, like I said, the accents can be a little fiddly. So there's something I just don't have something lined up correctly, but that isn't what we're trying to demonstrate here. So that's okay. So let's create a new flow. And so you see here for requested items, I have requested an Apple iPad and the price is $600. And so what we can do now is build this on our own. And so let's just say request item submitted. Right. And so now let's go to, I'm just going to create this in the same scope. And I'm going to change this to run as a system user. And so now let's add a trigger. And so this one is going to be a new service catalog. And I mean, obviously we would need more filtering here, but what we can do now is let's just create the action. You can see tax utils, calculate taxes. And then, I mean, we have the price hard coded here, but let's just set these up. So we have, so what we can do is we can go to the requested item. Oop, that didn't what we want. All right, the requested item, we can go to, let's go to who created it. Or, sorry, who opened. And then we can find their location. And now that we have the location, we can find the state, right? That's that. And then what we can also do is, well, it's hard coded to, well, let's line this up correctly. So what we can do now here is go to the requested item and then go to oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. The requested item and then the price, right? And so now we have, you see here, we are dynamically passing this in and we have a total price. right? And so what we could do, so let's just actually test this and run it. And so I think it's request item 1 here. So let's just run it. Right. And we know that the price is going to be hard coded, but we can, outside of the input not getting passed properly, you can see that it's applying the taxes correctly. So that's what we want. And so what we can do now is create an action to update the record. And what's the record that we want to update? We want to update the original requested item. And I created a custom field here just for this example where it's the total price. Right? And so now all we need to do is find the output, the total price here. Oh, I got the 0 again. Let's fix that. Right? And so now we have this very easy way to use to embed the capabilities that are in the script include that we generated. I mean, the plumbing isn't set up, but for the price, that isn't the important concept here. But now we can very easily use the output in this to update the request. And because we designed it where, we could have designed the action to take a requested item as the input to the action, but that's going to tie it to that specific table. And so maybe we would want to apply taxes to another type of record or in another scenario. And so by minimizing the dependency on the record and the table, this just gives us a lot of flexibility. So if you can imagine, if we implemented a custom application that needed to calculate taxes, it would be very easy to apply that as well. So overall, what did we do? We used Build Agent to help us create a new table, to help us fill data that was missing and to populate the table, to generate a client script, to generate some example code for us to see how the client script worked. And then we took all of that output, right, that is fairly technical and would traditionally require someone to understand how to instantiate and the script include and call or the object defined in the script include and then call the method on it. Now we've exposed it in a way that one, we can very easily reuse it in our flows, but then also, those other developers, the other personas that might not be as familiar with JavaScript, they can utilize it as well. So a little hiccup, but that, like I said, is just fiddling with the plumbing of the inputs and how that gets to the action. So that's a pretty easy part of this process. Well, thanks everybody. We know you're really busy. Appreciate your time, and like I said, we'd love to see your feedback in the the survey. But hopefully this was useful, and we will, like I said, start covering from top to bottom the architecture of the applications generated from React. But we'll continue to sort of have these more focused individual sessions until after the holidays.